Oh, hello and welcome. It is 2024, and we welcome you to the Dashcore Group Development Update today in an unusual time, but hopefully it will be a wonderful development update for us and for to you as well. We are planning this session for 1 hour, though we prepared some evaluation from last year, so that might add some time to that. And at the end, we will have a Q&A session. So please feel free to raise your questions or just give us some comments in the live chat below. Let me find
The
Zoom
presentation.
to, the presentation as usual. A lot of windows open. Um, Let us start the 2024's first development update.
Yes.
Woo!
So before we start, as Balazs just said, let's share it first. As Balazs just said, we are going to give a little bit of a recap for last year, focused really on platform. Very often, in our community, maybe not in our community, but a few naysayers have sometimes said, oh, what has platform accomplished? What have they been doing? Nothing at all. And really, when we look back on 2023, we see a lot. And it's going to be really nice to highlight all the things that we built, delivered, envisioned, like everything that was basically done last year. Well, not everything. Like we only have put in here the big ticket items and somewhat medium ticket items. But I hope everybody will enjoy it. So let's go to the next slide, and I will talk about all these things. So right here, these are the big deliverables completed in 2023. So I'm going to just go through them really quickly and say what each one was and why it was important. So the first one is we ported Dash Platform Protocol, which is a massive library from Rust to JavaScript. Now, we had started that in 2022. That's definitely true. But if we look at the amount of code of DPP, that's actually present right now, 90% of it is actually from 2023. So, that was a very big achievement in 2023. And, I'm very proud of that. We originally had not planned to port a Drive ABCI to Rust, but it just ended up to be the better solution. And yeah, we also ported all of Drive ABCI to Rust. Drive ABCI is basically all the validation library that hooks up with TenderDash, and TenderDash is the consensus library. So if you had to understand platform, there are about 4 major components of maybe not equal size. Probably TenderDash is a little bit bigger than the 3 others, but it probably goes TenderDash, in size. Probably DPP, Drive ABCI, and Drive are about the same size after that. So porting Drive ABCI to Rust was a massive achievement. So also very, very good. We also got some trees in 2023. And some trees are a capability that I don't believe a lot of other blockchains have. In fact, I don't know of any other blockchain that has it. This basically will allow us to verify that the balance of all identities in platform is equal to the amount that was ever put in, making inflationary bugs impossible. Or at least to my knowledge, impossible. Maybe some hacker
Yeah,
wants to be wrong.
yeah, it was the evidence of this recently, right? Is this credit transfer problem where we found basically the system helped us to figure out the bug and create transfer transition. So it actually works.
It actually, yeah. A credit transfer was trying to remove a little bit of dash from the system. Actually, not in the favor of the identity transfer. So it was the opposite of what a hacker would want. But still, it was imbalanced, and the sum tree system said, nope, not okay. Some trees rely on pretty advanced technology that we built out in GroveDB, where we basically sum Merkle trees up to the root. And yeah, so that was actually mostly built in GroveDB in 2022, but it was completed, I believe, in 2023, and then it was integrated in 2023. Versioning. Now, versioning was also massive. It was very painful as well. I might, during this call, guys, have PTSD as we go through some of these elements of this list. So bear with me. Versioning took quite a lot of time. It was if I remember correctly, in May. What we had before, in many blockchain projects, right, you build out the feature, and then the feature needs to change, right? And then it just becomes this really complicated system of, okay, it changed at this fork height, so if it's after this fork height, then this. But it becomes such a complicated situation of paths, version paths, that it's really hard to figure out like what's what. And sometimes you have calls, functions that are used in multiple parts of the system, and sometimes you're calling it in such a way that you're using an old version, and this can lead to a lot of problems down the road. The versioning of all the functions of drive ABCI, of drive, and of DPP is a monumental achievement. And even though it's not really a flashy achievement, it's amazing that it was completed. So kind of a smaller one is the next one. I was trying to put those at the end, but this one, I guess, got out of bounds. Is the data contract bounds. So what is data contract bounds? Data contract bounds is adding to a data contract specific information that is only valid for that contract. So what does that mean? It means adding like a specific key that can only be used by that contract. So you can add a encryption and decryption key directly to the data contract, making it so, let's imagine you want to do an encryption and decryption scheme on platform specific to your app, your dApp that you're creating. You generally don't want to mix it with encryption from another dApp. Why? Because you don't trust other dApp creators. Developers are terrible, except the ones we have. But a lot of bugs get made. A lot of people don't will come into the space, won't understand cryptography, and you don't want to share your security with the world, right? So the data contract bounds allows a dApp creator to basically have keys, but just for his dApp. And I'm sure that will be a very useful feature in the future. Identity v2. Now, Identity v2 was way before data contract bounds, and I'm not even sure it was in 2023. Maybe we finished it in 2023. I don't remember, actually. Balash, you'll keep me honest. Some things might have been like on the cusp of maybe it was finished in January 2023.
Yeah.
It was?
I only looked at the reviews, the review slides from 2023, so it should.
Oh, okay. So
it should finish.
Yeah, it was finished in 2023. Identity v2. Before, identities were this big chunk of data, like everything that you were was just in one big blob. And you wanted to make a little change, well, you had to take the entire blob, even if it's like 10 megabytes, change one thing and push those 10 megabytes back. And that's very inefficient and it's costly, and it just wasn't a good system. So Identity v2 really improves upon that. The balance of the identity, it has its own place. The keys of the identity have their own place in the state. It's all in Grove DB under like a specific structure. And yeah, so that's also not as flashy, but under the hood, it's a very big achievement. New identity credit transfer transition. Yeah, so before this, we had no way to, it's not just the transition, it's the ability to transfer credits between identities. So before this, we didn't have any way, and then we built it. So now you can transfer credits between identities on platform. The next two are kind of tied together. There was the core reward distribution. That's basically how money came into platform through core. I mean, we needed that to incentivize platform until the fees rank up. Then we also had the core block reward processing. So every block generates fees, and we had to process all those fees and distribute it. And that's actually really big. It was a big task. And that was in Drive ABCI. And because that was in Drive ABCI, I know it happened in 2023 because before that, there was no Drive ABCI. Speed up CI and reduce costs. Oh, this was added more recently. Yes, so our CI used to take like an hour and a half. And what is CI? It's our continuous integration suite. Every single time we made a change, before we can take that change and add it to all of our code in like the general code base that we all use on GitHub, we have to do a pull request, and that pull request needs to be approved and merged in. CI, continuous integration, basically tells us developers, yes, everything is good, generally. And then once we see it all green, then we review the code changes and get it merged in. Our CI, because our project is so big, and also our CI used to be not super efficient, took, I believe, an hour or more. And it was not good. So we actually did this in two steps. The first step was that we took our CI and we use our own servers to run it, right? And that sped everything up massively, right? Went from an hour and a half to like 25 minutes. Now, the problem there was that was costly. So that was like a temporary solution. And then Ivan and Leon and anybody else? Was anybody else
I'm
involved?
sure others helped in as well.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of, I bet Igor helped. I have a feeling Igor helped on this. Maybe. Look at him over there. Yes. He doesn't have a hat on today. Not okay. We know you only with a hat. So yeah, so CI, like on the second time, it got reduced even further, and it's like super fast nowadays. Like it is really very, very optimized, and our solution could almost be exported for other companies. It's really very impressive how quickly and efficiently it's done nowadays. And yeah, we vastly improved Dashmate test coverage. Who added this to big deliverables in the last? While it is a big deliverable, I tried to like put only in here big things that would speak to people. But yes, let's go on. Asset locks.
Talking about speeding up, We
No.
are 15 minutes in, and we have a massive amount of questions in the live chat. Just keep that in mind. Maybe you can cherry pick some of the big achievements and some of the medium ones.
Okay.
I know
It's
you are
gonna
super
be a,
enthusiastic.
it's gonna be a speed run. It's gonna be a speed run. Asset locks. If you don't know what asset locks are, it's too bad for you. They're the ability to transfer money from core into platform. Same block execution. This is massive. This is something that the Tendermint team had wanted to do for a very long time. They had put it on their roadmap. I do not know if they still have it. Lukasz, do they have it yet?
So Tendermint itself is like quite inactive project right now. They have forks and stuff like that, but I don't think they did same block execution already. Not sure.
Yeah.
Would need to check.
There might have been a little bit of drama in that community or space. We won't touch that. But we did it. What we had two possibilities in front of us: either wait for it to be done by their team or do it ourselves. We decided to do it ourselves. It was done, and it works perfectly. So kudos to the Tender Dash devs in DCG. And now we only have Lukasz. So kudos to you, Lukasz. Shout out to Dima, who still does some work for us sometimes. Masternode identities. Masternode identities is basically have the identities of your masternode in platform to be able to interact with platform using your masternode as an identity, like being able to vote with your masternode. Efficient DPP data serialization. Now this was massive, but it's not very flashy, so I'll skip it. Protocol version signaling. This is actually great. This is the ability to hard fork our system by just upgrading your node. So if 2/3 of the network upgrade to a newer version, and when they upgrade, they signal for the new version, that basically starts a process that will change from one version of the code to the next version of the code. And it's really actually pretty impressive. And it's happy that it's there. I'm very happy it's there. Fee refunds. Now, this is another thing that most projects, other projects don't have. Well, basically, you put money in the system. You put you put some data on the system. You delete it. When you delete it, you clear up resources, and you get a refund for your resources that you freed up. Evo node support. We activated Evo nodes in 2023. I mean, that's pretty great achievement. And I have a slight cold. Sorry, guys. So yeah, we activated Evo node support. State transition fee distribution. Think that was kind of covered in the block reward processing. So yeah, we'll skip that. Decentralized API. Now, before this, we only supported HTTP. Now we support HTTPS, which is very big for a lot of like making dApps on Web3. Tender Dash drive integration. Yes. So before this, we had Tender Dash communicating to Drive and JavaScript. The Tender Dash Drive integration is communicating to Drive ABCI through Rust, and that did not exist before. Tender Dash vote extensions for withdrawal transactions. Yeah, that was also a big deliverable. Okay, let us skip to the. Let's actually probably not talk about the next slide that much. Let me see if there's anything important. These are the medium deliverables. These are things that took like actually quite a lot of time, but they're not as well, they're not as important as what was on the first page. But they were a big task that we put in, like the efficient root tree, That's something that basically like all of the data in platform is actually in this really efficient section tree. So proofs basically have a smaller cost. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. I'm just going to skip it because we don't have that much time. And then we started a lot of things in 2023 that we haven't completed yet, but we are, on our way to completing. I've been working on Masternode voting this sprint, but I'm not going to talk about it that much because we don't have that much time. But we've been working on the Rust SDK. The Rust SDK is actually in a pretty good shape right now. It's being used a lot. The platform text user interface is getting very strong. We put state sync on hold for the last few months, but once everything else is done, we are going to jump back on that. And then we have been working on withdrawals, and we're going to cover that on this review today. Should we, Balázs, do you think take any questions now, or should we wait till the end? Because I think we should maybe.
We have a massive amount of questions.
Oh no, a massive amount.
Yes, a massive. So,
Are there any that are stand out as like we should do right now?
maybe no, it needs some context. We have some questions like what is left before mainnet release, but it is better, I think, to have the full context, what we've done, and then move on to questions.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so
yeah,
let's just go
we will see.
we'll go on to questions later, guys. So this is kind of for the last 4 weeks. Now, you might think to yourself, okay, there were 4 weeks, we expect 4 weeks of work. That's actually not really the case. Most of our team, if not almost everybody here, took time off for one reason, for another reason, generally for vacation. For Christmas, Hanukkah,
New Year.
I'm trying to think of any other holidays that during that period for other faiths. If I missed your faith, I'm sorry. Oh yes, Russian Christmas, right? Or Russian. There is a Russian Christmas in January, right?
Yeah,
In January,
Orthodoxy.
indeed.
Yeah, it is.
And so there was a lot of time off by a lot of people. So we probably accomplished the equivalent of a sprint during the last 4 weeks. 2 weeks during the last 4 weeks. So let's go on to who did what. So testing was done by Sam and Ivan, and I would say actually, Lukasz, you helped out a lot on testing as well. Strategies in the text user interface was Paul. He's not put on here for some reason, but I'd still like to mention him. Evgeny has been working this week on the text user interface as well. He is working on the key, basically the ability to add all types of keys to your identity through the text user interface, and he's almost done with that. He's not able to join today, sadly, but I'm sure he'll present that in 2 weeks from now. So on benchmarks, we had Ivan and Lukasz. On withdrawals, we had Igor, Odysseus, and Lukasz. Odysseus is also not able to join today. He is on a very happy vacation event. Drive ABCI, that was me and Ivan. And I put Drive ABCI because basically, it's a lot of different tasks that happened in there. So let's move on. Yes. So Igor?
Thanks. Hey, everyone. This is Igor, and I will talk a little bit about the withdrawals, the effort we've been focused together during the past month. I would say implementing withdrawals is quite a complicated task because it involves 3 different components of the system and requires coordination between 3 teams. These components are Tender Dash, Drive, and Core. To expand a little bit on the topic, asset locking and unlocking is essentially a bridging between core and platform. By emitting an asset lock transaction, user locks his dash in the core side, and platform issues a corresponding amount of credits. And by emitting asset unlock transaction, we are essentially burning credits and releasing locked funds back from the core to the user. And while locking assets is quite trivial and requires only user's signature, asset unlocks are more sensitive and complicated and require quorum's signature. And during the past weeks, we revealed some inconsistencies between 3 systems that had to be addressed in order to be able to bridge funds back and forth. So the signing of the withdrawal transactions goes as per div7 by assembling a request ID containing certain fixed string prefix and an arbitrary payload, which in our case is the withdrawal index. Then this request ID joined together with the quorum hash, quorum type, and actual message hash, which is a hash of a transaction. Up to this moment, Tender Dash had a hard-coded string prefix to the request ID, and we needed to extend its functionality to be able to receive an arbitrary external prefix. But we have to keep things secure enough at the same time to avoid blind signing to avoid blind signing. Besides that, there were also some complexities related to the bytes ordering when assembling the SIG hash for the withdrawal. So we had to produce many different test vectors with the hash preimages, hashed and non-hashed payloads, and etc. And all of this to make sure that all 3 points of integration talk in the same language. So for every step and try attempt, we basically had to perform tests on a real local network and produce many intermediate Docker image releases to perform these checks. So there were also some administrative overheads alongside with the development time we spent on that. Eventually, we found out an issue on the core side that simply could be explained as a mismatch of the quorum type during the signing and verification. When we are signing withdrawals, we are using quorum type platform, and when we were verifying them on core side in rec test mode, it was using a test quorum type. This is our current working theory, and we are in progress of testing it. Thanks, Konstantin, to helping out us with that. However, currently local Dashmate setup works on top of core P20.0, and the fix made by Konstantin is built on the latest dev version of core. We encountered a few problems upgrading Dashmate to the latest dev version of the core, and currently working on that in order to unlock withdrawals implementation. And also a few other tasks related to the that need latest dev version of core to progress with them. So this was all about the part of a withdrawal lifecycle prior to the moment where Drive broadcasts asset and log transaction to the core. There are also a few things that need to be taken into account after the broadcasting. We needed a way to query core and check a status of a withdrawal in order to progress with the corresponding withdrawal document on the Drive side and to give the user a feedback about the status of his withdrawal. Originally, it was done by introducing an RPC call that returns statuses of the withdrawals by their transaction IDs, but we couldn't use it since we only know transaction ID before attaching a quorum signature to it. And after we attached it, the transaction hash after we attached the quorum signature, transaction hash becomes different. And Drive is not storing quorum signatures in the database. And as a result, we had no way to know a correct transaction hash in order to query its status. So as an alternative, Odyssey has implemented a new RPC endpoint that returns asset and log statuses by their index. And index is accessible in the Drive's database, so we can progress on that part of the withdrawal lifecycle once we ensure that broadcasting logic and verification of the asset unlock works as expected. That's more or less it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Igor. And this is
I think me
Sam's.
again, right? Just for these
Yeah.
two. Yeah, so we had this problem, and I think we talked about it a month ago, where the identity transfer was causing a mismatch of balances in platform. We talked about it a lot because we said that it identified the sum trees that were working, and the sum trees identified that this problem. Last time I had talked that I had tried to find it, and I thought it was some complicated problem when the identity did not have enough balance and was going into debt. That was definitely not it. It was much more simple, and Ivan found it. Thank you very much for finding it, Ivan. You made it so I didn't die of a brain aneurysm. I don't know. Basically, it's just that an identity transfer was happening from identity A to identity A. Yes, that's how stupid it was. Somebody
It took me several days to figure this out, to be honest. So,
yeah. I mean, I don't want to say it because it could be transformed into a meme or something, but we are morons. In this instance. Yeah, so basically we did not check the most obvious thing, and we were going into really complicated reasons for this to happen. And eventually, we just saw, wait, we're transferring to ourselves, and that's not allowed. It's allowed in core because you have a UTXO model, right? But the identity transfer in platform doesn't use a UTXO model. It uses a different model, and you can't do that. So very easy fix. Yeah. We also found that, I think this had maybe we had already talked about this last time, but it was merged in after the last review, so we're not sure. We had a replay attack on credit transfer transitions. So if identity A sent a transfer to identity B, you could just replay it forever and give all the balance to identity B. Obviously, we would have always caught this, but it was just something that we saw as we were reviewing code. So platform load test, this is very cool, and I pass it to Ivan.
Yeah, thank you. Last review, we already, I think, announced this topic that we are doing some benchmarks with platform. We started with some local testing, and we were preparing for the running against the DevNet, or actually we used testnet as the first run. And during these weeks, we did many improvements in this area, and we conducted several tests with several iterations. So we tuned the network infrastructure and platform settings for stress tests, so it's not killing the network anymore as was before. Sorry, Daniel. And we made a simple tool, what we running on the load test nodes to basically to bombard the network with the random documents, and you can specify for how long you want to send random documents and what the concurrency is, and yeah, and provide some metrics about the process, like how many send, how many succeed, how many fail. I hope next review will show you how it works. We also worked on the automating the deployment of the benchmark infrastructure into our incorporating into our deployment tool. So anyone can spin up the DevNet and some load test nodes and platform metrics based on Prometheus and Grafana to do the same. We so as I already said, we did first try against testnet, but since it didn't work well, we decided to use for now until it's not very stable against the DevNet. So we won't interrupt other people work. And we faced with multiple issues, what we already fixed. And here's the list of the recent ones, what we're facing with right now. So the first one is about how client gets information that mempool is full. Currently for tests, we have 10,000 transactions in limit in mempool. And with our load test CLI, it's in pretty quick, be completely full, and client getting like some internal errors instead of proper handling, like, and retrying with the other node. Then there were a couple issues in Tender Dash. So the recent one was the panic in the ordered map, the structure, what is used for different needs, including the blocks, I guess, right? And during the resync, like replay, we got this error. It was some the not trade safe approach they're taking. So Lukasz kindly fix it. And then things went better. We faced with another issue. It was the proposal block time. The block time, what we're using to figure out what the current network time for the system, and we have some consensus logic for this in Tender Dash. We had basically wrong setting. Lucas just figured this out yesterday. So we adjusted now, it's much better. And we have many other turnables, what we need to tweak to get the stable results and figure out eventually how much transactions per second we can get. Because currently it's just like basically different parts of the system based on the different timeouts and different expectations. And yeah, we just need to make them work together properly. That's what we're busy with right now with Lukasz. So I hope next time we'll give you some interesting results. But that's pretty time-consuming process, as you can imagine, because yeah, you need to like deploy the network, make tuning, like test, fix things, and continue. So pretty exciting. Yeah, we'll continue on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you can
So
Yeah,
continue.
yeah, you do the first one, right, Ivan?
yeah, and there were other tasks that we worked on, so we just put them in the slide. The first one, what I was busy with, and Evgeny, as I know, like, build some UI on top of it. Probably you guys see it next time when he'll make a demo of Platform Explorer. So previously we had the button there to broadcast random document. And my goal of this task was to broadcast any number of documents. So I did work with some parallelism and provide a better result, like to process as much possible documents in a second. So this was really required preliminary work for this loader CLI, what I mentioned in the previous slide. And Igor, you worked the next one, I believe.
Yeah, thank you, Ivan. So also we we implemented a charging fee for the verification of signatures in state transitions. We have signatures pretty much in every of them that needs to be checked, and yeah, we are adding extra fees for that. As I mentioned already, we are updating Dashmate to work with the core v20.1, and we are as a measurement to prevent spam attacks to the network, we are also gonna filter asset logs by a minimal amount of the DOFs. That's it. Thank you, Lucas.
Yeah, the small task to improve the workflow. When we test performance, we need custom image builds of TenderDash to add some debug information and stuff like that. And to build Docker image, it takes like 15-20 minutes for ARM architecture and 2-3 minutes for Intel architecture. So basically, we had that process like connected. So we built both images in one step. And this improvement allows us to select which architecture we want to build. So in a normal workflow, we can just build Intel and see if it works. And only if everything is correct, then spend like 15 or 20 minutes building for ARM, which we use on our devnets and testnet. So that's basically it.
Yeah, I think we should, in TenderDash repository, we should incorporate our foundings, what we applied in the platform CI. There we using the specified instances runners to build the specific platforms. That's why we also gain a lot of speed.
Yeah, but like for what we are doing right now, it's good enough, let's say it, and that's why we just limit to building Intel when basically only I'm doing that. So once if we have more needs, then we will go there. However, it's like 15 minutes, so it's not a big deal right now. It's nothing compared to what we had in platform, which needs to take all the components and test them, and it's much more complex for the Dash platform, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I will take this slide, CheckTX improvements. So this is actually a very interesting one. We, as we continue down the path of, oh, what is going wrong? Let's try this, and oh, this is more expensive. This is not what we expected in terms of performance here or there, or we're having some issues as we do the test. One of them was, oh, well, CheckTX is a little bit more expensive than it needs to be. And it was causing some issues. So we built out basically CheckTX improvements. So one thing that, before I go into this, let me kind of explain how CheckTX works, what it is. When a transaction arrives to platform on a specific node, it asks, it checks to see, is it valid before it gets put into mempool. And this check to see if it's valid checks things like, does the identity have enough balance? Is the transaction deserializable? Is after it's deserializable, is it properly structured? Stuff like that. What it doesn't actually check, what it used to check, but it doesn't actually check anymore, is there a conflict with the state? And why does it no longer check that? Because that actually is very expensive to check. And once we have validated that the user balance is enough, if the user does something like that, it means that they did something wrong, generally. There are some situations where it would not be the case, for example, in contested resources, but contested resources has another pull request coming up in masternode voting. But basically now we have a really after this has been merged, I mean it was merged in last week, now we have a really fast check TX and even faster check TX on recheck. What is a recheck? Well, basically every single block, the entire mempool is rechecked. Why is that? Because a lot of things could have changed every single block, and Tenderdash just needs to recheck everything in the mempool to make sure that users still have enough balance to pay for things. So yeah, this by the way, the mempool is generally not big in our system platform. Like it shouldn't actually like carry over because we have pretty big blocks. But if you do have like a saturation of the system, meaning that there are more transactions than the system can handle in speed, then yeah, you could have a mempool that grows, and then you would have to recheck a lot of stuff. So before, this probably could have led to the system breaking because check TX would have been so expensive. Well, not so expensive, but it would have been expensive enough that when you have like hundreds of thousands of transactions in your mempool, it just, the recheck on every block would have slowed the system down a lot. But now the rechecks are really, really much smaller, like maybe less than 1/10 of the size. So yeah, very good PR, very happy it's merged in. And yeah, let's go to the next slide. So another PR that we have been working on for some time was the chain lock core synchronization issues. I gave a good update about that on 4 weeks ago. It wasn't heavily worked on in the last 4 weeks, but there were some changes. And one of those was we now have a new core RPC called submit chain lock. And the submit chain lock deals with a race condition where the chain lock was transmitted through platform faster than core. And with this new RPC, we just improve on this race condition. So the race condition could have caused a platform node to go down, and now it can't anymore. So, big fix there. Let's continue on with Paul from research.
From research.
Who is somewhat of a developer nowadays. But I want to continue with the from research, as that is.
Hello, guys. I've been working on the strategy tests in Platform Explorer. Platform Explorer is the text user interface, so it's something you can interact with Platform with through your terminal. You can do a lot of different things, and one of those is the strategy tests, which we're mainly going to be using to stress test Platform. Yeah. So I presented that I pre-recorded a video and presented that, like, what was it, 2 months ago or something? So I kind of explained the things that you can do with it. Since then, we did some refactoring in the Explorer to make it multi-threaded, so you can do multiple tasks at once. So I had to rewrite a lot of stuff, and that's what the refactoring was. Next, I added the functionality to actually run the strategies on testnet. So yeah, the functionality is there, but it's like buggy, and I'm just unlocking all the bugs now. First, I made register and update documents and contracts possible. So yeah, you can run through a strategy, and basically you hit run on the strategy, and I'll share my screen in a minute. You will iterate through the blocks, and like for say 20 blocks or something, or 100 blocks, you'll be submitting state transitions. Yeah, here, let me share my screen. Yeah, so you can do something like you can register a bunch of contracts and then submit a bunch of documents to those contracts. The next thing is are we not sharing the slides anymore? Oh, okay. The next thing that I'll be working on is registering like identities and doing things with identities. You can do stuff like top up, add keys, withdrawals, transfers, all that stuff. So some of that is working, but it's buggy and some's not working at all. So that's what I'm working on now. Along with, yeah, that's really what I'm working on now. And then after that, it's pretty much done after that. So yeah, this all should be done, I think, probably in maybe in 1 week. So yeah, I'll show you quickly what we have so far. So here's the main screen of the Explorer. You hit S to go to strategies. Let me delete this one I was working with before. So create a new strategy. And I will see down here your options. It's a lot of options, and I'm going to clean this up and it's going to be easier to see later. But yeah, I'll like add the Dash Pay contract. So this will basically register the Dash Pay contract. And then you can optionally add like contract updates. So a few blocks later, if you add a contract update, I'll hit yes. Then you will update it with this second contract, update 1, and then we'll do update 2 as well. And yeah, then you can see here's like an operation for the strategy. And then I'll hit O to add an operation here. Go down to document, Dash Pay contract, insert random document. You can select the times per block. I'm just going to do 1 for now. And the chance per block. So like it's 0.5 would be like, it's a 50% chance that this operation is going to happen on any given block. And then if you hit run, confirm, so normally we'll probably put like some logs on the interface here, but right now I'm just logging to this file. Yeah, so you can see like it's pre-computing all the state transitions for all the blocks. It's running for 20 blocks starting at this height. And then it is processing them. So you can see successfully these first 3, it's registering it's registering the contracts for the strategy, and then basically all the subsequent ones, like everything after block 20382 is submitting documents to these contracts. Yeah, and it worked pretty well. Had some connection issue with some of the DAPI nodes, but yeah, that's basically what you'll be able to do with the strategy tests. You'll be able to do like really, complex and heavy operations. It's meant to stress test platforms. So, yeah.
I'd like to add something. That's great, but I just want to add one little thing. If people ask, why don't you just release, guys? Well, see that error right there? That's one of the reasons why we just don't release. One of many. But yeah, what he's showing right now would not have worked 2 months ago, right? At all. And now, it's mostly working. But we have still some errors from time to time. And we just want to get to a state where, the easy to fix stuff is gone, right? So
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I'm working on the easy to fix stuff. Sam's working on, and the other guys are working on the hard to fix stuff.
yeah, and just so people understand what I meant there, that the error that we saw there, that is not an error from the text user interface. That is an error from platform. We don't know why, but
we know we know why. We know why. It's just a few nodes are down on testnet.
Oh,
Due to
there you
some
go.
infrastructure.
Could be that. Probably is that. Anyways, thanks very much, Paul, for that presentation. And
Thank you very much.
let us move on to core.
Core.
All right, thank you very much. We can move on to the next slide here, and I'll talk briefly about what we've accomplished in the past couple of weeks. Main accomplishment was the delivery of 2003. There were a couple of issues on masternodes where we were seeing higher memory requirements than was strictly necessary. Quorum caches were taking up too much memory, and so we were able to figure out some fixes there to reduce memory consumption. Also, a lot of people were complaining about very long wallet unlock times, and sometimes you would get crashes during those wallet unlocks. That ended up being related to a Bitcoin backport, and so we were able to backport a fix that basically resolved that issue entirely. And so 2003 included those couple of changes. 2004 is going to be released in the near future. About 6 months or so ago, our Windows signing key expired, and we were okay with that. We knew it was expiring. We communicated it was expiring. But we continued signing the binaries with the expired certificate, which it turns out Windows does not like. And Windows would actually prefer that we deliver unsigned binaries over signed with an expired certificate. And so a lot of people were getting much more aggressive antivirus warnings because it was signed by an expired certificate. So we are figuring out what exactly we want to do with that. A couple of options are to sign it with basically a self-provision certificate that is not trusted by a root certificate authority, but this would behave basically like unsigned binaries, but they would actually be signed. That's the route I'm leaning towards currently. Another route is to deliver unsigned binaries, and then another route is to get a proper new trusted by a root certificate authority code signing certificate. That is actually a better looking option now than it was a couple of weeks ago. I spent some time to figure out how we could build into our release process some of the new requirements for Windows signing keys. And I believe that I've been able to figure out how to integrate the new hardware token into our build process. And so that would actually be an option now. A couple of months ago, Windows and certificate authorities changed their requirements where now all signing tokens have to be on a hardware key. They can never have touched a physical computer. And that required some changes to our signing setup. I'm personally not very sure if I want to go that route and get a proper trusted key, primarily because it's just stupid expensive. Like, it just feels wrong to pay this much for just someone to sign my key. The cost is somewhere between $300-ish, $400 a year, which I don't know, in the grand scheme of things really isn't that bad, but it just feels like they're taking advantage of developers, and it feels really, really bad. And so part of me just doesn't want to engage with it at all. But that's still a discussion we're having internally. I'm open to thoughts that other people have on this. So if you have any opinions on unsigned versus signed with a self-provisioned certificate versus, spending multiple hundreds of dollars per year getting a proper certificate. As a point of comparison, Apple has a similar thing on Mac OS, but it's $100 a year. So it's still annoying, but $100 a year feels kind of reasonable. $300 plus feels kind of crazy. So I don't know.
And it's free if you're already paying that $100 because we have an iOS app.
Exactly. So on net, we don't actually pay anything for Apple. But I don't know. If anyone has any very strong opinions on this, please reach out to me. I'm curious about what people think here. Delivering unsigned binaries isn't a terrible user experience. I've built a couple of binaries locally. If anyone wants to test with some test binaries to see how stuff compares with, signed with an expired certificate versus unsigned versus a self-signed certificate, let me know and I can get you those binaries. And I do want to see more people test with it and ensure that self-signed certificates work the same way as basically unsigned and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, like I said, any strong opinions, reach out to me. It feels wrong to spend $300 or $400 per year just for a certificate. Like, it just feels absolutely asinine. Anyway, on to V21 or V20.1. The biggest thing that will be user visible in V20.1 is some Qt improvements. Basically, primarily just backports, but adding in discrete mode. This was a backport that will basically just mask out your amounts, and then a close all wallets button in case you have 10 wallets open and you don't want to go through and close each one manually. Added a button to close all of them. Pretty simple stuff, but a couple of nice Qt quality of life improvements. And then there's some other kind of interesting stuff that we are working on for V20.1. It's a little bit more technical, a lot of backports, a lot of refactoring, a lot of good improvements, but not super interesting from a user facing perspective. HD wallets by default might be the most interesting. We've done some testing there, and it seems like we're finally at the point where the HD key never actually goes to disk unencrypted. And because of that, it would be more prudent to actually ship HD by default. Because if you encrypt it, your unencrypted key never sits on disk. So that's good. We are investigating some potential problems with RPC queue depth work. Kind of crashes. It appears that this was also a thing inherited from Bitcoin. So we're trying to figure out if they've been able to resolve it somehow or what we might be able to do. But that's something we're trying to get done for V20.1. And then, like I said, a lot of refactorings. Assume UTXO project is something we're moving towards. I'm not sure if we'll be done with that for V20.1. Talked about that a little bit previously. It's basically like a snapshot for the UTXO set that you would be able to say, someone else generated this UTXO set, but I trust them. And so I don't want to download the entire history of the blockchain. I just want to go forward from this date and assume this UTXO set and go from there. We also have, the MNRR features that have been done. And we're just kind of waiting on the timeline for when we will release a minor version that will ask masternodes to vote to activate those. Those are activated via enhanced hard forking. And so basically masternodes just have to vote to get that process started. And then also we are moving forward with V21 development. BIP 324 is being looked at more, and we're continuing to backport those changes as Bitcoin merges those in, which is moving towards P2P encryption, which is a great thing that we would like to have. And then a community member actually created a pull request a couple of days ago that we are very grateful for. It's always really cool when we get a random pull request from a community member, especially one as significant as this one. And it implements DIP 26. And this was a Pan Leon, I think is how his name would be said. And so that was PR 5799 on GitHub. We're still in the process of reviewing this, but it implements DIP 26, which is the masternode multi-party payout. This is moving kind of towards shared masternodes. It might allow CrowdNode to do stuff a little bit more efficiently with having payouts or something like that. It allows basically a masternode to designate up to 32 payout addresses that they would want to send their coins to. And like I said, this is a potential route towards moving towards shared masternodes. But yeah, definite shout outs to Pantalone. Pen Leon. Thank you for your contribution. We're reviewing that and hoping to get that merged into V21, as that will be a breaking change, and so it would have to be in V21. All right. It's pretty much done with current development. It was a bit more long-winded than I expected myself to be, but that's all right. Let's move to the next slide, Balash, and I'm going to talk
quick question. Is there a way to warn people about the Windows warning beforehand?
I don't know kind of exactly what they mean. So the warning with unsigned binaries and with a signed by a self-provisioned certificate are basically the same, and they're very similar to what everyone expects. They're just the smart screen protected your PC. This is a unrecognized binary. I forget what exactly it says, but it's that blue screen that pops up that everyone's very familiar with, and they just click run anyway, or something like that.
Maybe he meant that just warn people that they will receive this like in an email or send out somewhere in a newsletter.
We could put it when you click on download Windows binaries.
Yeah.
Before
somewhere there.
We could just have a pop-up saying like, but I think that the real problem is that people that don't understand very much what signing is are going to be like, are you just going to install a virus on my computer?
And so the interesting thing from my investigation so far is that it appears that from a user-facing perspective, so when you get a certificate from a certificate authority, there are two levels that you can get. There's a normal code signing certificate or a organizational verification certificate. And then there's a extended validation certificate. And from my testing so far, only an extended validation certificate, when you run the application, will say, this binary was produced by Dash Core Group Incorporated. All of the other ones will say unknown publisher, even though I would strongly argue that the other two, they know who the publisher is. And with the organizational verification certificate, they actually verified that Dash Core Group is a real organization and everything. But it seems like Windows is pushing people more and more towards the EV certificate because they're more expensive. And so the user experience for unsigned binaries, for self-signed binaries, and for signed with a normal code signing certificate is the same. And this is where I would like to get more people to help test it. But
also, people, I would say in the comments of today, share if you think we should pay the $400 or if we shouldn't. Like, it's not about the $400, right? I mean, $400 is a pittance compared to, operating costs. It's more about, should we?
More about the principle to me of this feels like a mafia's saying, oh man, it'd be very inconvenient if Smart Screen popped up and scared your users away. You need to pay $400 a year. I don't know. So let us know what your thoughts are there.
Let us know. Please continue, Asta.
Awesome. Thank you. So yeah, V20 over the past 4 or so weeks now, I guess. I believe it activated within the time frame of this sprint review and the most previous sprint review. If not, then what did happen was the December Superblock happened successfully. everything went well there. It used updated thresholds. Everything looks good. Additionally, now that V20 is activated, chain locks are being stored in the Coinbase and are being used as the entropy for quorums. So very happy with both of those things. V20 has gone very well so far. There have been a couple of small issues that we've been fixing with minor updates, and 2004 will have another small fix for some stuff, but nothing super problematic. And now we've got roughly 98, 99, 100, nearest makes no difference percent on version 20. So very good there. Yeah, let's go ahead and move to the next slide. And very quickly, you can take a look here and see all of the changes basically over the past since the last sprint review. You can see each of the PRs. Take a look here, pause if you're interested. Yeah, I don't know, there's nothing here I really want to call out, but anything here that you're interested in, go ahead and take a look at the actual pull request and see what's going on. And otherwise, we can move on to mobile.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Pasta.
Right?
Yeah, so I'll make this brief. I know we've got a lot of questions. That'll be easy. We had a good amount of people with time off as well. So we had a couple of bugs. I mean, broken record, right? The FFI macro and Rust library testing on the Android side, it's once or twice every sprint. So you're always going to pretty much see that for the most part on every one of these. It's a very iterative process. Had a couple bugs. We released on our major version the updated calculation for CrowdNode APY with the Evo nodes, but we had to tweak that a little bit to make it more precise. So that was fixed, and a small crash. CoinJoin work continues. And this is all back-end work. We're really into a lot more heavy testing now. Reliability testing is something you'll probably see throughout. There's a lot of different scenarios that we're testing for that. So that'll probably carry on a couple sprints as well. And yeah, Uphold had some changes to their API that we had to accommodate for. And we had changes in Dash Wallet that we've merged into Dash Pay. We had 3 releases since our last presentation here on Android. You can move on to the next slide. iOS, again, work is going on. Rust libraries, not too much to say there yet. We did start to restructure a bit how we're doing this work. So going to be more at a feature level as opposed to the various components and stages. So that'll hopefully make us a little bit more efficient to move on with that. The last bit of username voting was finished, and the developer that's currently working on iOS CoinJoin, he needed to do some research and kind of understand better how the Dash Sync system works, what's been already done on Android, and then kind of plan for that on iOS. So that's been good in getting into the nitty-gritty there. He finished the first step, which is a messaging system. And as you can see, there's a few things that were in review. I think those have already progressed to finished in our current sprint, but and we had the same CrowdNode APY changes still to do at the time. And we released our major version for V20 after getting approved by Apple. That's it.
Woohoo! All righty. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the questions then. Are you ready? So, first question. In the last broadcast, Amanda, guess they're talking about the incubator. Amanda mentioned the ever new features instead of initially delivering Dash Evolution as announced 8 years ago. Is she right, or what are we waiting for? Will 2024 will be a Dash year?
Yeah, I think I'll take that one.
Okay.
So it's a three-part question, really. The first is initially delivering Dash Evolution as announced 8 years ago. So let's clear up some things. Developers here, who was here 8 years ago? Raise your hand or speak up. Oh, wow. Nobody, not even me. Well, 8 years ago? No, I was not around in 8 years. I was not around in 2016. So, you know, the team that we have right now mostly joined, well, it depends on who, right? Some joined in 2018, some in 2020, some in 2021, 22. You know, it's a very, it's, you know, around and many different times. So to say, well, you should have delivered 8 years ago is very, it's not, it's, you can't blame us, basically. We're here and we're doing our best to deliver the vision, and we transform the vision. Yeah. But also saying ever new features instead of initially delivering Dash Evolution, then I would ask Amanda, what features do you think are in Dash Evolution? Give me a list. And we can see, because just saying, hey, why don't you deliver it without saying what it is, isn't very productive. I'm not trying to hate on Amanda at all here. Just
Yeah,
saying,
if you have XX Gummy, if you have any more specific, then we probably can address that.
yeah, exactly. So we also haven't really been adding new features more recently. A lot of what we're working on right now, and if you saw in our sprint review today, it's, well, testing, stress testing, load testing, check TX improvements. Now, you know, these things are, you know, there are some things that are considered features like withdrawals, but did we ever say platform was going to happen without withdrawals? We were just going to put money in and you could never take the money out. I don't think this was an added feature. Yeah, there have been over the years some features that we put in, some trees, for example, you know, making it so inflationary bugs cannot happen. We had to rewrite most of platform into Rust. I think that was a great idea, and without that, I don't think it would have been stable. So yeah, let's get some actual.
Yeah, it is a complex question to answer, as it is.
Yeah, we're basically trying our best to release this and iterate afterwards. We really are. But we, you know, we have to, as we saw today in the demo, you know, sometimes some things are breaking, right? So we need to fix them.
All right, I'm going to pick one of the last questions just because it's addressing a topic that Brian can answer. When Dash implements CoinJoin, does private send still remain? Is it an effort to avoid exchange delisting? Actually, 3 questions.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I mean, Michael kind of answered it in part, and that's partially my fault, so I apologize for that. Referring to things as CoinJoin, the reality is they are the same, and we did rebrand it to Private Send on the core wallet a while back. We haven't, to be honest, finalized 100% the actual labeling and messaging we're going to have in the wallets. We've used slightly, or we've been trying to use slightly different terminology just to avoid the regulatory kind of scrutiny. So that is somewhat of a still work in progress, even though the UI is done. We are still trying to be cautious to make sure we're not, you know, getting that scrutiny from the legislators.
And I guess a separate question, is it an effort to avoid exchange the listing? Yes, whenever we know about it, or whenever we are informed, we are reaching out to exchanges. I guess nowadays it is it is Desert Links who took action last time, I think, with the OKX.
Oh,
But
yeah, with the-
yeah, but what we do what we can, yes, with the listings.
Yep.
All right.
So should we go through the questions that?
Yeah, I go back and start.
So
When?
well, I mean, before I didn't finish the last one, it was will
Oh,
2020.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Will 2024 be a dash year? I really hope. And I really hope because we are definitely releasing this year platform. I probably said that last year and I probably said that the year before. But as you can see in our tests, we have it on testnet. It has been stable for some time. We are doing stress tests right now. We don't have a crazy amount of stuff left, but it's also not coming next week. We are hitting some really hard problems that are very, very hard to fix. And I don't want to minimize those. I don't want people to think that they're easy to fix. Sometimes we spend a week on a small problem and yeah. So we are getting into that nitty gritty of that happens towards the end of a release, as well as a few last features that we have to complete, like withdrawals that we talked about today, and a few other things. And I think we will have questions here that will ask what they are. So when
And what is left to do before mainnet release? I guess partially you answered, but if we can merge these two questions.
Yes. So what is left to do before platform release? It's really stabilize, finish withdrawals, and verify that the system works extremely well. We have been pushing for the text user interface to get more and more of that out, to see more and more when there are issues. And we're just going to continue down that approach and also bombard our network with more and more transactions, testnet with more and more transactions, test the limits of our system, find issues. To answer the question of when, it's really hard because we don't know what we will uncover. And today we found something that looked a little bit like it could take some extra time. Nothing is going to take months, probably. Knock on wood. But we will uncover problems as this is a process, and right now I do not know what those problems still are.
Thank you. How
Not a
long
very
after?
satisfying result. It's not a very satisfying answer, I know.
Yeah, thank you. How long after initial release would it take for IBC compatibility, roughly?
I think you missed question 3.
Am I? How long after release can we reasonably expect the next version? Yes, I'm sorry.
So we need to decide what is in the next version. We have a few contenders, and it's really going to depend on if we have state sync in the original version or not. If we have state sync in the original version, then the one after is going to have a different set of features, right? And depending on what those features are, they're going to take more or less time. If state sync isn't in the first release, and we find based on our test that we do not need it, then it will be a fast follower, and a fast follower would mean less than 3 months. There are some things that would take a while. There are some things that would take much less time. So I believe as well, we're going to, discuss with, our community and various people, what features people would like to see the most. I know some people want to see token support. Some people want to see, general improvements to the system, like more transactions per second. Some people want to see there are so many different features like smart contracts, support, or there's actually just so much to do, and we have to prioritize what we're doing. Because as you guys see, we don't have a very big team right now. And I think that will go into question 5, which I'll take before we go for question 4, which is
Okay, go ahead.
Ideally, how many more devs would you like to hire for platform alone? At what dash price can you achieve this? So I really want to double the current platform team. We were at, how many devs were we at about this time last year? Ivan, I would say about double what we currently have, right?
Platform, yeah, I would say.
Yeah, so we shrank a lot, and I think that it would be very beneficial to our speed of delivery to hire more people. Now, at what price can we achieve this? It's not so much about what price, it's about what sustained price or what bump price. It's like kind of the area under the price over time. So, if we went to $50 for a sustained period of time, we could definitely do it. If we went to $100 for a very short amount of time, we could also do it. So, and if we went to, $40 for a very sustained period of time, we could also do it. So, there's a lot of different situations where it can also happen. Also, we do not have to double the size of platform team in one go. We'll obviously start posting and hire one person and then another person, and then, slowly fill positions.
Onboarding, yeah.
I mean, it takes a lot of energy to onboard somebody, and we're going to be very careful with the hires that we make.
I'll add a bit,
Thank
maybe
you.
quickly onto that, Sam. I mean, it's not just about the price too, right? I mean, we have to keep in mind that we are still in recovery mode a great deal, and that recovery mode is going to depend greatly on support from the Treasury for our comp and supplemental proposals. So that's particularly important over the next 3 months at least, I'd say, to be able to achieve what Sam wants. So very important to know.
Thank you very
I
much.
feel though that there could be like when or if it does take off, it's going to go really quick.
IBC.
IBC, how long after initial release would it take for IBC compatibility roughly? So the bigger problem with IBC compatibility is we have too much and not enough people. If we focused Lukasz on it, I believe that he could do it within an amount of time that I will not disclose. Otherwise, he will kill me. But seeing his phenomenal speed on other tasks, I do believe he has more than the capabilities of doing it just by himself, even without any help. However,
Yeah.
we have a lot of stuff to do, and some of the other stuff really does take priority. When we release, there will be problems. There will be problems like, not that the network will stop, but one of the nodes we found has one of the nodes on the network shut down, and we get a report from somebody that their node was turned off, like basically had some error, and it will take time to investigate all of that, and that's what Lukasz will probably be focused on for a sizable amount of time. So without extra developers, it's going to be very hard to see IBC this year.
Yeah, just one
Thank
more
you.
comment to that is that IBC is just a protocol, right? And we need to figure out how our users want to use IBC in our context. So that will be the tricky part, because just implementing the protocol is not so hard, but understanding how we can use it and analyzing all the use cases, that's the hard part, in my opinion.
There's also the hard part of getting, other projects that have IBC on board, right? Like getting, being able to interact with the Tendermint ecosystem, or who else has
Yeah,
IBC?
exactly. That's part of what
Yeah,
I
live
mean.
clients, basically. But I see the cool use case is basically to provide the capabilities of data contracts to the Cosmos hub people, so they could use, this
Yeah, there
cool
are.
feature of platform.
We all agree it would be
Yeah.
great to have. And
Thank
by the
you.
way, somebody wants to create a development team to build it, go ahead.
All right. If we can speed it up, because we are here for 90 minutes, more than 90 minutes, that would be great.
Yes. So
After
yeah, sorry, go on.
After MVP is out, can we expect regular future release estimates on the roadmap and keep to those deadlines? I would reframe this. What we can try is to have regular releases, but keeping the scope flexible, and have directional roadmap.
Well, the one good thing about platform releases compared to core releases is that there's no need for a minor upgrade. Minor, like the ones that mine blocks. Just by updating, enough people on the network will signal their support and will automatically change. So because of that, it's a lot less hard, I would say, to do an upgrade. Nevertheless, let's not expect them every 2 weeks. We really have to figure out like what features we want. If we're all working on smart contracts, a smart contract release, well, we would ideally split up the team to have one part of the team working on smart contracts, one part of the team working on smaller features that we could have in incremental releases. But smart contracts for itself, would not be a increment. You could not do that incrementally. It would be one thing at a go, or 90% of it at one go. So, yes, we will try to have regular releases. Let's also keep in mind for platform, we have had frequent releases to testnet over the last 2 years or so. we've we're up to version, well, 1 right now, but we had 25 versions before that. So,
Mhm.
count how many years that is and divide by 25. So there have been quite a lot of releases, and they have been somewhat frequent. So it's not that we don't have very frequent releases. It's more that, well, we really need to get to main, and I think that's what most people want at this point.
Thank you. Delivery on mainnet by core versus platform over the years has been very different. When will DCG request core and platform funding separately? Let MNOs choose products they wanted to buy.
At this point, the answer to that question is never. And the reason why is that we should not see core and platform as independent products. It is one product at this point on 2 chains. They are very well intertwined, and they are getting more and more intertwined as we get more and more versions that support them working together. It would hurt the system very, very much to remove platform. It would hurt the system. I mean, platform would not be able to work without core. So I guess the only possibility there is to defund platform while not defunding core. And doing so would, well, basically cause, it would cause me to leave, just so people know. I think it would cause a lot of other people to leave at this point who have worked on this for many, many years. So I obviously, as the CTO, am not going to propose it. If somebody does want to propose it, they can obviously propose it. We have an open governance system, but yeah, they would not. It's not something that I think anybody inside of DCG wants at this point.
What can the Dash community build alternative teams so that critical deliveries don't fall on the shoulders of a single team in the future? What can the Dash community build?
What they're saying is, could the community create other development groups?
Mhm.
The answer to this question is quite complicated, and it's hard for me to give at 11:40 p.m. when I woke up at 6 a.m. But I will try, my dear community. The biggest thing that we have to look at in the entire crypto space is how do projects fare very well when there are multiple development teams versus when there are one development team. And when we look at multiple development teams, sometimes it goes really well. I would say in the case of Bitcoin, that has multiple development teams, in the case of Ethereum, that has multiple development teams. And sometimes it does not go very well, where there is infighting between various teams. And, there's a lot of personality fights, and that eventually causes splits, and it's very bad for the projects and the development of the projects. So for Dash, I believe that it's, we're an open system. We have a governance system. If anybody has the ability to create another development team, like has the credentials and that wants to do it, I think that if the price was high enough, it would be good for our ecosystem. It would be good for multiple reasons. One of the reasons is there's 2 ways it could go. And in both situations, DCG wins. Not in both situations, Dash wins, though. But let me explain what I mean by this. So either the other development team does well, and that fruition, synergizes with DCG. The other situation is that they don't do well, and well, DCG looks better. I'm being very honest here to people, but and that is why, you know, as a member that works very hard on development, I encourage it, right? Because on a personal level, it can generally only go well for our team. However, as a Mastodon owner as well, putting on a different hat, you know, you really have to, I think what was best for the project, Dash project, is another development team that focuses on, you know, the core, like on protocol and not dApps, would have to be led by somebody of immense technical skill that really understood the project. And that is very possible to find if the project skyrockets, right? And let's imagine platform really takes off and another development team comes in that's already formed and wants to build out a feature. They do extremely well on the first feature, and then, you know, the funding comes, and then they get more and more funding. That could go extremely well. Yeah, so that's how I see it going potentially well.
Thank you.
But just taking another team, maybe having somebody who really doesn't know protocol, somebody maybe not even a developer in business that just wants to do it to say we have another development team, I think that would go down really badly. It would not doing something for the sake of doing it instead of doing something when you have an idea on how to build it is bad. Okay, let's move on. Sorry, it is late for me. I am starting to blabber. Balázs, keep me honest.
All righty. How can we help the platform and core teams in the future? What do you need the most?
I think the real problem that we're facing is uncertainty. And it's not something that really can be helped by the community. And what do I mean by uncertainty? Well, we have uncertainty in the markets. We have uncertainty in the development process, where something might work one day and then stop working another because a lot of different merges are happening as we're in the end of the project, and we have like a very you know, we have a very complex project at this point. So at this point from the community, what do we need? Well, we need the continued support, and it's been very appreciated. I feel like a lot of people inside of DCG really, really did appreciate a lot of nice words that we've seen from community members. We always get the not nice words that we try to either understand or ignore when they're not anchored in reality. But yeah, that continued community support is one of the reasons why a lot of us are still in the project and persevering.
Thank you very much. In addition to the summary, can we get a status update on Tender Dash? I believe it's complete. Grove DB, I believe it's complete. Drive ABCI.P platform, question mark. Overall percentage complete for the whole project.
Sure. We'll try. So on GroveDB, we have not done an update to GroveDB in the last 3 months, I would say. 4 months, 5 months. I'm not even sure at this point. It's been a while. And it works perfectly. We have, you know, sometimes seen, I mean, this week we saw the first, well, bug, I would say, in GroveDB around proofs. And we're not yet sure if it's an error or if it's something that we did wrong on our side, on the drive side. So we're investigating that. But yes, there's no feature left unless we consider state sync as part of MVP. If we consider state sync as part of MVP, then yes, there is some extra work on GroveDB that is currently being done by Wisdom. Yeah.
TenderDash.
So TenderDash. So on TenderDash, we are also in a somewhat similar state, yet there is, I would say, more work on TenderDash than on GroveDB for release. Generally, that work on TenderDash is not as visible until we hit, until we're doing this testing that we're currently doing, right? The testing is revealing errors, like problems, but I believe that the problems are not Herculean, but time will tell. Do you want to add anything to what I said, Lukasz?
Yeah,
Lukasz
so
is-
basically it's a tuning and debugging task in terms of TenderDash. Not much actual development planned, but when we connect all the components together, it becomes tricky to get it all working with a good performance. For example, what we are debugging right now is some timing that happens when you have thousands of transactions that are sent between nodes, and in parallel you need to mine new blocks, and multiple components introduce some delays, and processing basically takes some time. And all these parameters need to be tuned, debugged, investigated. So in terms of TenderDash, I believe it's more or less stable in terms of feature complete, maybe with exception to the withdrawals, which is also not a big task in terms of lines of code, but also a challenge to coordinate between various components. But yeah, I think the biggest task is to tune everything to work together with other components at this point. So like setting delays, setting timeouts, and testing that, and tuning. So that's basically the status of TenderDash. At least for V1, right? Because that's the perspective.
That's what we are talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I would say DPP is at probably 100%. What do you think, Ivan? I don't see anything left to do in DPP.
Bug fixing, probably just stabilization.
But we never have any bug fixing in DPP. If you ever check, it's always either in Drive or Drive ABCI. But there might be something. There might always be something. I see that as very, very close to being done. I mean, I can't even think of anything that needs to be done in DPP. In Drive ABCI, well, we have like let's see the bugs that we continue to find and how we can fix them. We have the mass node voting that I've been working on this week. I did not present my work this week on mass node voting just because it's there was so much to talk about, and I just wanted to present it as done in the next review. What else? Overall percentage, hard to give percentage, but I don't know, 96, 97.
All right.
When I look at everything that we talked about today and all the features, and we really just, we don't have much left. I can't give a different percentage, but
okay, that is our current best understanding.
Yeah.
Thank you. What is the single coolest, most unique thing the platform team has built that the rest of the crypto world would be blown away by?
The problem is in these types of questions is the thing that we think about is not actually the thing that will blow away the crypto world. Probably like the most cool stuff that was built is the provable state or the sum trees, or there's a lot of really cool technology that we built. But in my opinion, what developers are going to like the most is probably the refunds. I'm not so sure. What do you think, Ivan?
I think it's basic user experience working with data contracts is the killer feature. There are many storage systems nowadays, but still I haven't seen the most simplest to use and most familiar to the Web2 developers. They working with the MySQL or other databases.
I think there's also something to be said about like, the store and forget aspect of Dash platform. When you store data, on a service, if you stop paying for that service, your data's gone. Like you always have to pay. You always have to like, your credit card, you change your credit card or it expired. They're going to send an email and then eventually your data will get destroyed. There's a lot of like issues there. On Dash platform, however, let's say you're a small business and you want to store your menu online for a service or something. Well, yeah, you just put the menu there and it's there forever. And anybody can just access it. Maybe there's a DApp for menus for all restaurants in the world or something. There's a lot of different like like a Yelp could be on platform. And you never have to worry about anybody ever deleting your data. So, or your data ever disappearing. I think that's going to be a pretty cool feature as well. And it's just going to be much more economical for a lot of people as well that, that want to have a system where they distribute data to people, but they don't want to make it complicated, or they don't want to pay a monthly subscription. They just want to store it one time, pay a fixed cost, and forget about it.
All right. I guess we should choose one last question before we die here. Can you also go over the current status of the Dash platform SDK? Mikhail on Ryan's last incubator call brought up the annoying size of 70 megabytes download.
That's
I could probably
Yeah, I
answer
heard
that.
about.
Yeah, so Mikhail is referring to the huge WASM chunk of the SDK bundle. And I would say, yeah, we could apply some optimizations to the WASM bundle by simply not including certain parts of the code that are not really used by SDK. It's just, yeah, it's a matter of extra time and development effort needed for this particular task.
All right. I guess that's it. And our time is up twice, if it makes sense. Thank you. So originally we planned the session for 1 hour. We are almost at 2 hours. If I missed some of your questions, please reach out on Discord. Let's talk. Thanks for joining. Thanks for this review, the questions and the comments. and see you in 2 weeks. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.